They're telling us to descend to 13,000 feet, so we're going to type that into our autopilot controls.
Orbit 5300 heavy.
Oh, whoops.
Descend and maintain 5,000.
Descend and maintain 5,000. Orbit 5300 heavy.
Move it down to about
Delta
1,800 feet per
Please
second.
expedite your descent to 13,000.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. If you don't do it right away, they're gonna come. They're gonna come and yell at you and say, "No, we told you to go to 13,000." So we want you to expedite that. Now we're gonna move down to about 285 or so. We don't want to be in a situation where we're going too fast. Turn our seatbelt signs back on, and we'll turn the landing lights on. It's a little early. I mean, you don't really need to turn the landing lights on until below 10,000 feet, according to FAA regulations. But we'll turn them on now. It's not really a big deal. It's not a bad thing if you have extra lights on. You know, basically all it is so that you're recognizable from other aircraft, and you know, anything from the ground, they can tell that you're an aircraft. So it's a little windy, a little choppy. That's why I moved it down to about 285 knots. So we are, you heard the engines kind of bogged down for a second, and you can see we are descending. We were at flight level 250, we're now at flight level 228 and descending to flight level, what was it? 13,000. So we typed all that into our autopilot.
Miles southwest, turn left heading 025, expect vectors, visual, runway 22, right approach, Delta 1225 heavy, you are 63 miles southwest, turn left heading 030, descend and maintain 13,000, expect vectors, visual, runway 22, right approach.
Alright, so they've given us a visual approach, so we are actually going to change that. First we're going to change to a different approach.
723, turn left heading 355. Standby, Delta 1225 heavy. Delta 1225 heavy, roger.
So they gave us 22 right.
355. Expect vectors.
We're actually going to request ILS 22 left.
Harbor Air 3723.
Vectors to final.
Delta 1225 heavy would like ILS runway 22 left approach, vectors to final. Delta 1225 heavy, you are 55 miles southwest, turn left heading 030, descend and maintain 13,000, expect vectors.
So I just typed in 030 into the heading and selected.
Runway 22 right.
Now they're telling me to sidestep to runway 22 right. I actually am going to now change the runway. So I'm again going to tell them to stand by. And we're going to request runway 22 left. So we click that and then request runway from controller.
Delta 1225 heavy, request runway 22 left.
And the reason we're doing that is
1225 heavy, you are 50 miles southwest. Turn left heading 025, descend and maintain 13,000. Expect vectors, ILS, runway 22, left approach.
and then we acknowledge the assigned approach.
025, descend and maintain 13,000. Expect vectors, ILS, runway 22, left approach. Delta 1225. heavy.
Now, in real life, if they didn't want us to utilize that runway or that approach, they would tell us, no, we want you to, we will give you the vectors and the headings necessary to get you lined up with the runway, and then you'll run a manual approach to the runway. But because I know that Boston has ILS capabilities, particularly with their runway 22, there's runway 22 left and runway 22 right. Now, they gave us visual runway 22 right. Runway 22 right does not have ILS capabilities, so we're switching over to runway 22 left, which does have ILS capabilities, and it's on the same heading as runway 22 right. Obviously, you're just going to either sidestep to the left or the right. But the ILS is actually giving us the ability to be able to approach the runway utilizing the ILS equipment as opposed to just utilizing our eyeballs. Now, it's kind of a catch-22. Like, if they tell you no, which in this game they're not, you know, in this flight simulator they're not going to tell you no. If you want to utilize a different runway, you can actually request any runway, and they may say no if it's like a runway that may cross over runway 22 left or runway 22 right. But because I'm using 22 left, and the only runway that's in service right now is runway 22 right for incoming flights, they allowed me to do it because 22 left will be available, and it won't cause a situation where any air traffic could come in jeopardy with colliding with me on my approach. So now we're currently at 225 for our heading, 025. And what did they tell me? 22 left. So at this point, the game's going to pause here for a second. But I'm pulling up the map. I'm clicking on that little map button there. And I'm clicking on KBOS, which is KBOS, which is Logan. And runway 22 left is ILS frequency 110.3 at a heading of 216. So 110.3, 216. 110.3, we pull up our radio stack. 110.3. And we change our course to 216. Acknowledge the handoff. 216 is selected. And we're going to just keep following air traffic control here. They're handing us off. Because we're under 18,000 feet, we're going to hit B and switch to the local barometric pressure, which is 29.95, which is what they just instructed us to do. We're now coming up on 13,000 feet, so we're actually the plane's going to level off. And we've already typed in our ILS course and our ILS frequency. We're going to switch this back over to nav from GPS because we're now using the navigational equipment. 110.3. I like to put it in both just to be safe. I mean, you don't really need to do this, but again, it's just to be safe. Click on nav 2. I do it on there too just to be safe. You never know when you're going to have to use the backup equipment. So you go ahead and type it into both. 110.3. And now all of our equipment is lined up and ready to go for our ILS approach to runway 22 left at Boston's Logan International Airport. I turned us down to about 250 knots, which I will bring that down. Airbus A319 is... Alright, we're moving down to 7,000 now. Acknowledge that. The VREF, or final approach speed for an Airbus A319 is actually 177 knots. That's 177 knots. So we're going to have our approach, we're actually going to bump it down just a smidge. Make sure we're not crashing into anybody or going too fast. Right now our current airspeed is about 255 knots. We're going to make that about 220 as we descend down to 7,000 feet. Coming down through the clouds now, so we're actually experiencing a small amount of turbulence right now. Let's put it on the tower view right now, and we'll actually make this tower view a little bit bigger. Put it across the whole top of the screen. And you can kind of see it through the rain and everything, but it is raining now, currently. But we are all set to go. At this point, all we have to do is wait for our specific instructions from air traffic control to put us on the correct course towards our approach. And then once we're on final approach, we're going to hit this approach hold switch, which will line us up with runway 22 left for our final approach. And of course, like I said, you're going to always be listening to air traffic control for that reason. They give you an instruction to turn right to 055. You say okay, type it in, take a right turn. Oh, and we're going to pull up the GPS. We're going to type in our approach information. You hit procedures, select approach, you hit enter, and you scroll down to the approach that you have assigned from the controller, which in our case is ILS 22 left. So you're going to go ahead and enter. Final vectors, load, hit procedures again, and activate vectors to final and hit enter. Now we are all set in the GPS here. It will show us the approach and everything. It's a little bit easier to see. So you can see off to the right. Let's acknowledge our handoff here first. So we're going to be coming in from the northwest and landing at about a south to southwest direction. But as you can see off to the right there, off to my right. Alright. Altimeter 300. We'll go ahead and hit B, and that will reset us to 300. Another request from the controller to switch, which you're going to get a lot as you're coming in. Off to our left is Manchester, New Hampshire airspace, KMHT, which I'm from. I live about 15 miles away from this airport, so I know this area pretty well. Just hit B again to switch over to 2999er. But what I was saying was, and this has a lot to do with the weather, there's a standard runway that you use in perfect weather conditions. But this little purple line here is our final approach, and it's actually bringing us north and east of that. We will come down and around eventually. Once we kind of cross over a spot where we can turn to the right, they'll have us turn to the right to line us up with our little purple line here. Oh, we've got traffic right here. Yeah, that's them right there. So we're going to click on report traffic in sight. Same traffic. Now, based on weather conditions and also based on, you know, visualization conditions, like if your visibility is low, you may not be able to see the aircraft that they tell you it should be in sight. And that's why they do give you an option here on the air traffic control menu to select traffic not in sight. That's if they're behind you or below you to a degree where you can't see them. That's us. Can't get a word in edgewise. It's the same Beech aircraft, Beech King craft. Alright, they're telling me to move to 120. Now that traffic is no longer in sight, so I'm going to say not in sight. Alright, so we're going to move this down to about 200 knots, and we're going to hit our flaps. Got a lot going on here in Boston. Alright, so now they're telling me to move down to 1,700. I hit my flaps out to about 10%. I hit F7 twice. And you can see there's like a little flap indicator here that shows you where your flaps are at. We're now descending to 1,700. 1,700. Alright, so they're telling me that there's an Airbus nearby. I don't see them. So basically, I mean, at this point, especially with a lot of traffic, you're just going to listen. Oh, there's the A321. Alright, they're in sight now. They're right down here below me. So, what I was going to say was, at this point, basically, you're just following the instructions from air traffic control. Because especially with any type of weather conditions, large amount of traffic, or, you know, I mean, whatever it is, if the airport's busy, or, you know, if there's ground conditions that result in having to put you into maybe a pattern, into a holding pattern, then you basically listen to them. They'll tell you what you need to do, and then you just do it. They're actually not too far away from me. That's why I was getting traffic alerts and everything. How far away are they over there? I mean, they're only a nautical mile away from me. That's not very good. I mean, if it comes down to it, I can, you know, change my direction to avoid any type of collision or anything. So we're going to bring this down. Heading of 180. We're descending down to 1,700. So we're going to put this at about 175. 177 is what I said was our approach speed. And we're going to hit F7 all the way to full flaps. Hit G to put the gear down, which if you see right here, that's our gear is down now. Contact Boston Tower. Tell them we're inbound. Make sure we're checking our altimeter. Always acknowledge what they tell you to do. Now, we're going to be probably landing on a different runway than this A321, so even though they're right there, it's, you know, the game's not really perfect when it comes to that, but we should be heading towards it. Alright, yeah. So we're leveled off. We're heading towards our final approach. We're actually going to click on approach and unclick our heading selector knob. So now, as we get closer, now if you hit F2 as well, you pull up nav1, and then you hit call for nav1. There should be, it should come up now actually, I think we're in range of it. But you should hear a series of beeps, and that is actually Morse code, which is the ILS, there it is. That means we are in range of the ILS the ILS information. You can't really see, and it's raining and it's very kind of choppy, but you can kind of see the plane here in my tower view overhead. But at this point, we're just going to keep an eye on this, and the plane is now turning on its own. And turning to line itself up with runway 22 left. And again, because I selected a different runway, I may not run into a go-around situation. In real life, what would probably happen is I would be, you know, because I'm so close to the plane in front of me, I would most likely have a go-around situation or be in a like a holding pattern situation. Because you can see that Airbus 321 is only 4 nautical miles away from me right now. And that's definitely not enough time to get them off the runway in time for me to be able to land. But because in this particular scenario, I selected a different runway than the runway that's actually typically in use. Now you can also tune to ATIS, which is Air Traffic Information System, which I'll do real quick. Light rain, low ceiling, 500 feet, 2,900 feet overcast. See, they have ILS runway 33 left in use. Landing and departing runway is 33 left and 33 right. All aircraft read back hold short instructions and make sure that you let the controller know that you have hotel information, which is what the current information that's being said to me over the air. So we've got flaps at full. Flaps are full. We're at about 177. Oh, I forgot to do this. Switch this over to ILS, and we'll also turn on our ILS indicators so that right here you can see now our ILS indicators are active on our primary flight display. As that purple light gets down here, once it gets to here, you'll see this light will actually shut off. I'm sorry. Your altitude indicator will actually shut off. So we're cleared to land on runway 22 left. The Airbus A321 in front of us is cleared to land on 22 right. They're still telling us to keep caution noted for that Airbus A321. So now, I was mentioning, now our altitude indicator switch is switched to off. That automatically happens with any ILS approach. And now we are lined up using our ILS indicators right here. We're lined up with runway 22 left. You can see the because of the weather and the clouds and everything, it's kind of like chopping in and out as far as our visibility. But that can change at any time, visibility. Once we get down below the cloud level, you'll start seeing raindrops, and then you'll actually see the runway.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
I don't,
Don't sink.
the don't sink thing, that, for whatever reason, happens more often in this one than anything else. I don't know why, but
Don't sink.
what we're going to do is we're going to turn our auto throttle off now,
Don't sink.
since we're on a final approach.
Don't sink.
And you can see the runway here right in front of me.
Don't sink.
Once the runway has been made, we will hit F1.
Don't sink. Don't sink.
F1 will move our throttle down to 0%.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Coming in,
Don't sink.
we're going to hit F1.
Don't sink.
Now that the runway's been made, we hit F1. I'm going to pull up on the stick slightly. And we hit Z to get rid of our autopilot. And we hit F2 to hit, we hit F2 a bunch of times to hit our reverse thrusters. We're going to hit our brakes. You can hear our brakes are going pretty good. we're running out of runway here. And that's it. Hit F1 now to put that back up to a normal throttle. We're going to hit our taxi light, turn off our landing light. And that's it. We're still rolling a little bit, I think. Oh, no, we're not. Going to hit our throttle up a little bit to get off the runway. And you just hit F3 to do that. You just kind of tap F3 a couple of times to get that throttle up.
Delta 1225 Heavy, exit runway when able. World travel 736 Heavy, contact Boston, departure on 118.25. 118.25.
Oh, I don't know why I had my parking brakes on. I didn't mean to do that. And then you just navigate yourself off the runway. Make sure all your autopilot stuff is turned off and what have you.
Delta 1225 Heavy, turn next taxiway.
There should be a taxiway right at the end of this runway. Oh yeah, here it is. And you just turn off the runway. They will call up and tell you to switch to ground control.
Delta 1225 Heavy, contact ground on 121.75.
You just go ahead and acknowledge the ground handoff.
75 for Delta 1225 Heavy.
Kind of hard to see the runway with the landing lights on, or the taxi lights on. You can see it a little bit better now. I'm actually a little bit off to the left of it. Tune to ground, and then you can request your taxi to the gates.
1225 Heavy, taxi to the gate. Delta 1225 Heavy, taxi to gate Bravo 1.
And you can hit,
Alpha.
you acknowledge the taxi, and then you turn on progressive taxi, and it will show you the way to get to where you need to go. But that's pretty much it. And that's how to fly an A319 in moderate weather. And that was our complete flight from Baltimore-Washington International to Logan International in Boston. So please remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you later.